The Taoiseach telling a private Fianna Fáil meeting on Friday that Ireland is going to be hit by a frightening wave, is how he described it, a frightening wave of delayed cancer diagnosis next year. We'll hear from a leading oncologist after 8 o'clock about this, but basically this is because Ireland shut down between March and May 2020, 2 years ago, for COVID, including our health service, nearly every aspect of our health service apart from emergency rooms. And we're now going to pay the price in terms of, we're seeing increased diagnoses and referrals from GPs already compared to 2019. What's your take on it?
I think it's sadly to be expected. I am very much with Carol Sikora, who is the former Director of Cancer Services at the WHO. He's a consultant oncologist who queried the benefits of lockdown at the time, as did I. And as he said, we were called killers at the time. I remember tweeting once saying my concern about lockdown. By the way, I was very pro the first lockdown. We had to lock down initially. We didn't know what we were dealing with. And so for a number of weeks, we had to lock the country down to see what we were faced with. But then after that, using prolonged lockdowns as a means of controlling COVID. I remember sending this tweet. I remember saying, I think we're trading one set of lives for another and being called a fascist, a Nazi, a killer, someone who wanted people to die by people who have no concept of how the health service runs. We detect 1,200 cancers per year with breast check. We prevent 3/4 of cervical cancers with cervical checks. That's probably about another 900. That's 2,000 there. But it wasn't just the screening that stopped. People didn't present with symptoms of cancer because they weren't attending doctors. We have missed thousands of cancers per year for those 2 years. And we did save lives from COVID, but I have no doubt that we've cost other lives. And I think we got it wrong to some extent, Vincent.
From what I read, Ciara, the Taoiseach seems to be referring specifically to the first really extreme lockdown between March and May 2020.
Oh no, that was our extreme lockdown, but bear in mind, breast check was closed for the whole year.
But could we have done anything else at the time?
I think we could have. I think we should have stepped up and called essential services what they were. For example, in my view, schools should have stayed open. I don't think we should have thrown the mental health and the education of our young people under the bus the way we did. I do believe that other aspects of healthcare should have stayed open, that we shouldn't have pivoted entirely onto COVID.
Even if they had, would people were so afraid at the time of what this meant, and in terms of that, would they have presented?
Maybe that could have been managed too. Maybe we didn't need a list of deaths on our national broadcaster every night. Today, so-and-so have this many cases, this many deaths. That went on for nearly 2 years. We frightened the hell out of people, and we are going to pay a price, and we will lose lives to this. We will lose lives in some ways, and in my view, and I said it at the time, so I'm not being inconsistent, and I got it in the neck, and I left Twitter eventually because you couldn't have a conversation about this. But the reality of it is we did trade one set of lives for another. We will pay this price long term. I'm not sure we got the balance entirely right. And we need to learn, because it may happen again. There may be a sting in the COVID tail or another pandemic, and you cannot shut every essential service without seeing this kind of fallout from it. That would still be my view and remains my view.
Did we get it any worse than anybody else though? And I mean, that doesn't defend it, but
Europe has seen a surge of cancer cases and will see a surge of cancer cases because we largely did similar things, but we closed for longer. We closed our schools for longer, and we closed our health services for longer. And I think we would have to learn something from that, and about the fact that you can't do that and you can't save every life anyway. So you save as many as you can. And I'm not sure that we got the balance exactly right. I think we focused almost exclusively on COVID, and now we will reap some of that whirlwind. And I think that is the tragedy of lockdowns. Whether the cure is actually worse or not than the disease in terms of what we did, I don't know yet. We don't know yet. But it certainly is pretty bad.